I'm very, very worried because Ryan Clark is missing something that's very, very important. What's the measuring stick, Max and Molly and Ryan Clark? And I appreciate that Super Bowl trophy. Thank you very much, even though you retired a Redskin, but we'll deal with that later. Here's the bottom line. The Kansas City Chiefs are the standard. When I look at the Pittsburgh Steelers, I'm asking myself, what are the chances that this number 3 defense against the pass, this number 7 defense against the rush, the number 1 defense in points allowed in the entire NFL, what are they going to do with those brothers? That's my measuring stick. So when I look at it from that perspective and I see the Steelers bending a lot, but not necessarily breaking. I'm seeing your boy, Ben Roethlisberger, even though he's playing like an MVP candidate, in a game, in a time in the season where 1 mistake or 2 mistakes will definitely cost you. I'm seeing some of the things that he does, some interceptions that should have taken place, some ill-advised throws, etc., etc. It makes me a bit nervous. The Steelers are a big-time team. I'm very proud of them. I know they're going to go to the playoffs. I believe they'll win at least a game in the playoffs. But I'm looking at them, and the measuring stick is, what are their chances to knock off the Kansas City Chiefs? And if I think those chances are slim to none, and we're looking at them overrated and talking about them at 16-0,
how they overrated,
it gives me cause to pause. That's where I'm at. Well, I didn't say they were overrated. They said, are you leaning more towards underrated or overrated? When you look at them being undefeated, you're talking about a team that could go 16-0. You're talking about, oh my God, Super Bowl champions. I don't view them that way. I just don't.
First of all, Ryan, let me explain. I am loath to defend Stephen A. Smith, but let me explain what's the psychology, what's going on. He's a Steelers fan. He's trying not to jinx him. Stephen A., I see what you're doing. Don't worry about that, man. I got you.
How did you find that location? How do you?
Well, he was up there backpacking or something, right?
Yeah, I was out there.
Yeah.
I was out there.
No, he was right. You were there.
With my bear spray.
Yeah.
My fishing line.
He had all that.
Snowshoeing. All that sort of stuff.
I told you he's very sneaky.
Not a lot of people out there. So you mentioned COVID free. You mentioned BA tonight, obviously, Tom Brady and Bruce Arians. Tonight it's going to be the Bucks and it's going to be the Rams on Monday Night Football. And we're going to get into this with our special guest here in just a couple of minutes. But I want to mention this game, as you may have heard, is going to be the first game in the 101-year history of the National Football League in which every single official on the field is going to be African-American. Now, this is something the league announced a little over a week ago, and it's gotten tremendous acclaim. And before I talk to one of the most prominent African-American officials in league history, I just want to give a shout-out, a little history lesson here, if you will, if you would oblige so much, especially with you two fellas. It's important to mention tonight a guy by the name of Burl Toller, B-U-R-L. Burl was the first African-American official ever in the NFL, and he was an outstanding player himself. Key, you would appreciate this, a guy that's a former player that went on to do great things. He played for the 1951 University of San Francisco Dons, which is generally known as a basketball school in the 60s, right? But this is the University of San Francisco Dons. He played with Gino Marchetti. He played with Ollie Matson. Those guys were inducted into the Pro Football Hall of Fame. The athletic publicity director, so like the communications director for that team, Pete Rozelle, who went on to become the NFL commissioner. So I just want to give a tip of the cap to Jerome Boger, who will be tonight's crew chief. We're going to talk to Mike Carey, who was one of the most prominent African-American officials in the NFL in just a moment. But just a tip of the cap, because always, as you guys know in sports, somebody's got to come first. Somebody's got to come first. And Burl Toller, who is no longer with us, he has died. But I just wanted to mention he's the first African-American official in NFL history. And tonight, fellas, every single guy on the field will be an African-American official. It's a really great moment.
No, it's cool. It's really going to be cool. And when you think about it, things have come a long ways just in general in life and society as a whole. But to be able to put an entire crew together just shows you how far and how long the NFL has gone to do these things. I mean, it's great, and they put it on a national stage. They didn't have it on a Sunday, buried in the Detroit Lion. I don't know. Give me a bad team, Detroit and Jets game. In Detroit, they kind of Monday night big stage. It's gonna be cool. It's gonna be real cool.
I think it's monumental. There's also a part of me, it's kind of like my dad, where I'm like, man, it's 2020. It took that long to do something like that. I guess you had to do it with intent, but the fact that it's done, like that's what it should be, though, right? I mean, your referee should look like how the country looks, and it should be diverse, and that's the way it should be.
Well, I think it probably, in terms of the NFL, the diverse part of it, how many people are out there that's African American that really, how many really wanted to become referees, so to speak, right? Is there enough? To your point, though, Jay, maybe it should have been done a while ago, but it's being done tonight.
I understand.
So
yeah. I'm with you.
That's the fun part about it. It's being done tonight.
This is going to be a little bit controversial, but it's like I see it. I recognize it. I don't know if I just stand up and applaud it. Like, yeah, like I feel like these are things like when you're a leader as far as organizations, like you have to do things with intent, right? And that's why I said it's 2020. Just
but
feels
it
like
takes sometimes, though, Jay.
It takes to be pushed. I agree.
It takes certain things to get people's attention.
That's true.
And then they realize, right? They realize, you know what? We might want to think about doing this. And maybe Troy Vincent mentioned it to him and got him to push to do it. And because everything else that's going on in our country, it's like, okay, all right, yeah, we're going to do it. Think about some of the commercials that you see now. Some of the commercials that you see now, you would have never seen 15, 20 years ago at all. You just wouldn't, you're just like, no, they would never run that. They would never show that. But now it's like everything that we've gone and we've been dealing with over the last year and a half or year or so, or even longer than that. But what has happened over the last year has certainly pushed the envelope on a whole bunch of stuff.
No, and I'm with you. I guess, when you first made mention of it last week, I was shocked almost in the ground. I'm like, oh, we haven't had this before? But I understand.
Because they usually what it would be reserved for is Black History Month. Mm-hmm. And there's no football being played. Maybe the NBA or something like that, you would look at and say, oh, all Black officiating crew in the NBA. But guess what? That's all the time in the NBA. You get 3-4 brothers. How many is it in basketball? 3, right? Or 4? Three. Yeah, you get 3 officials on the basketball court all the time. But in football, it's not like that. So if it was like in the past, and let's say, for instance, Black History Month was doing football season, I guarantee you 100% you would have seen it. Indeed.
Let's head to the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line. As I mentioned, Burl Toller was the first. The most prominent likely is Mike Carey. You may not recognize the name, but if you've watched football at any point in the last several years, well, you do, Key, you certainly recognize Mike. Mike, good morning. I want to mention...
screwed up a few calls that I was on.
No, come on. The refs are always right. They're human. You got to cut them a break. Mike, good morning. Jerome Boger is the crew chief. But before I ask you this question, I just want to make sure we mention every single name of the guys that are going to be out there. And Mike, I know you're watching with a lot of pride. So Jerome Boger, the crew chief. Barry Anderson is the umpire. The down judge is Julian Mapp. The line judge is Carl Johnson. The field judge is Dale Shaw. The side judge is Anthony Jeffries. And the back judge is Greg Steed. As an African-American official yourself, when you see these guys trot onto the field tonight, what does it mean to you?
Well, first of all, hello, fellas. And Keyshawn, get your act together, bro. It is really a seminal moment, and it's for all Americans, I think, and especially for those 7 who are going to take the field. Anytime you have a landmark game,